All right, guys, good morning. This is day number 2 with our little Gypsy Vanner 3-year-old mare. For you guys that saw the first day, I'm just gonna go right back and just revisit what we worked on the first day, which was dictating the direction she goes. I'd prefer, you know, she walks or trots. Some of the horses, when you cut them loose in a round pen, they'll just get to running around because they've been chased. There, you know, she's checking in with me. This little horse, she's pretty much a pet, and so she knows that if she gets right up to you, that she can slow down. So I'm like that she's checking in with me, and I like that she's coming back down to a walk. The first day she trotted quite a bit around here, and so, you know, the first time she looked in at me, I was like, no, we just got started. And so I just kind of kept a little pressure towards her shoulder there. And this time when she checked in, I said, yeah, why don't you come on in? Because I want to build on that. I want her to start to realize that it's a pretty good deal afterwards. So on the first video, hopefully we don't have the same problem this time, but on the first video, we lost a little audio. So you'll notice there was a voiceover on that one. And hopefully we'll do a little better today to get all that. But I'm gonna reach around here on the other side. I wanted to change directions. That was good. So this, I'll talk a little bit about this flag. I'm gonna push her. She went to change directions. So she did that to me during the first lesson, and I just had a lunge whip because I needed something to kind of drive her forward, build some forward. She's a little more forward today, but I wanted to use this flag because you can see, like, she just runs straight through pressure, right through it. And so we're gonna have to work on that because you gotta figure when we go to ride her that she's gonna have to yield, whether it's softness and lateral flexion or moving off of a leg. So, you know, we had a bit of a pretty good discussion right after we finished our first session. She just tried to run me over and go through the gate. And so she wouldn't back up. And all she was thinking about is back to the barn. And so we spent a little bit of time working through that. And so here, what I find with a lot of these pushy horses is that you've got to get them to where they yield those shoulders, and backing up is a huge thing. So I asked her I drew back on her and let her stop and let her just hang out for a second. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look on the point of her shoulder. I'm gonna send her back to the left. So I'm gonna point to the left, then I'm gonna take this flag just a little bit, and there she yields her shoulders. I'm not crazy that she trots off because you notice that horses use speed against you, so I didn't really ask her to trot, but she yielded her shoulders nicely. She wasn't too sporadic. And so what we'll do is we're gonna work on some change direction. This is a good warm-up for her. I'm not gonna spend a crazy amount of time doing this, but I want to iron out a little bit of these shoulders. See how she does it? She wants to keep me in this left eye, and that was something that she did the first session. And so what I really wanna work on is her getting more straight. See how she comes up and then she keeps me over here. I'm gonna take this flag. See there, she blocks me. I'm gonna let her go. Then I'm gonna come over here and get kind of busy and cut her back off. I didn't ask her to change directions, and she did that as an avoidance to not have to put me in her right eye. See, now she's getting a little cranky. This is the pet mentality. And so that's why I like this flag, because I can be as subtle as I need to with the flag, but then also it can make me really big. So here, we'll see, nope. So I come back over this direction. Now she's starting to yield a little bit on this other eye, but I want to get her to draw in and come off the fence. So I add a little speed, momentum, really. There, she starts to come. So I just draw on her. I'm trying to pull on this inside eye. She wants to go. If she wants to act like she wants to speed up and go around me, I just say that's fine. You have to work harder. She's already out of shape. So I don't want her to be scared of this flag because I want to be able to ride her with it at some point. But it's a really good tool. There she thought about leaving, and I stepped back and pulled that pressure off. I'm like, hey, look at these hindquarters here, see if she might either keep going like she did, or she had the chance to face up. that little squeal you saw, you know, that's just her getting a little upset that she's not getting her way. And that's fine. You know, what all this does is it gives me more opportunities to practice. So every time I send her out and she decides she wants to leave, it gives me another chance to bring her back there. She's a little more straight for a second. So I'm trying to help her out. She's thinking about how to stay out of trouble. This is where the last first session we kind of lost her when she had the opportunity to come towards me or come to the gate. I really like this inside front to start stepping towards me because that'll help her get more straight. She's really keeping me out of that other eye. And like I said initially, I'm not gonna get too worried about it, but I'm gonna make sure that we address it. And so if this, a lot of times if it keeps persisting as an issue, then I can always go back and put the halter on her, but I try to, there. So here I'm gonna push on this left eye and say, hey, I didn't ask you to go back to the left. Now we've got her on the direction I'd like her to go. This is a lot about balance. And I'm watching her, she's a little tight in the muzzle. When she changed this direction, she got a little tight. Trot's a good gait to let them go at so they can kind of relax and find some tempo. There she goes a little bit, starts to kind of exhale. She might lick and chew in her a minute, but I just like to let her cruise this way. I don't want it to become a big fluster for her so that she can get comfortable. Sometimes our horses just need to go for a period of time. It doesn't mean we have to chase them around, but they can go until they get relaxed and get comfortable and they learn that it's all right and that nothing's big gonna happen. It's just like us. A lot of people, they're like thinking worst case scenario, everything that could go wrong. And so there she just kind of dipped her shoulders into me. She was pretty much asked the question, can I come in yet? I said, no, you can't come in yet. And a little bit that's about, if I keep saying yes, 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 yes to her, that's what she's used to. She's used to getting her way all the time. And she's really pushy, this one. I mean, this horse, this is the second session in terms of us starting her and getting her under saddle, but she's had a lot of mini sessions in terms of just being led back and forth from the paddock, as well as you know, during feeding time, getting her to back off her feed bucket, and just a lot of little stuff that, you know, has made a difference in her that, unless we have a camera following all the time. So that's pretty good. She left me in this right eye and she stopped real straight. So again, guys, like with this, if I was teaching somebody to start a colt, we would go through a very diligent process of step by step by step, because those are people. So here she goes a step away. But for me, in terms of myself getting this colt started, there she went to leave. And I didn't want, she thought about changing directions. I said, nope. I put pressure on that inside hind foot to be like inside rein, inside leg, and drive her back around this circle here. If you want to leave, you can leave, but when you leave, there's work to be done. And then we start to build that draw a little bit. So I'm just trying to help her. There she goes. I'll try to help her salvage this a little bit. I know that if I try to go back to the other side, that she's gonna leave. She wants to put me on this side, but this is green colt stuff. This is us not making too big of a deal about it. There she actually turned her head, so I got in this right eye. So I'll take that any time, because before she would dip her head away to where I stayed in her left eye, and if I tried to get to the right, she'd just walk off. So there we go. But like I was saying, you know, with these terms of this deal, in terms of us filming it, this is getting things a little bit better every day and helping these horses progress. And ultimately, this horse is here in training, so we want her. We've got so much time to get her going, and we've got to work from where she's at. But this is not a how to start your colt deal. This is, I'm working with this horse from where she's at and what she needs. There's so many different scenarios on different exercises you can do with horses, particularly green colts, to help them get okay with what's going to be expected, whether it's saddling, whether it's picking their feet up, getting ready to bridle, desensitizing in terms of just getting okay with certain sensations and jobs. You know, if you're going to have to rope off of one, you need to prepare them to be roped off of, all that good stuff. So there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different things we can do with these green colts to get them ready. So I just want to check her out here a little bit, see where she's at. She's a lot softer today. She hits the end of that lead rope, but she's a little more apt to come off of it. Now, she's a bull in a china shop, this one. When she does pull or whatever, that's what we had trouble with the gate the last time. She just got the pulling, and it didn't matter how, like, she just blocked you out. She knows it. I mean, this horse isn't that tall. She's probably one of the shortest ones in the barn. There. So this is real big there. You can see I got her shoulders to yield out to the circle first. And that's really big for her because those shoulders are kind of like a weapon. And not the fact that she's malicious, but those are what runs you over first. She drives from behind like all of them, but then those shoulders, man, those are what ends up getting you run over. And so just her learning to yield. And I'm really understanding with these green colts that have come from a place where they've been pretty much pampered, is that this is a lot of mental change and expectation, and that they can really get to the point, that's all hindquarters there. She needs to yield those hindquarters, but she's drifting out through the shoulders and she's not bending around. When those hindquarters get underneath, those horses that rear up, they can't rear up if they've got proper hindquarter engagement. If they're using themselves from behind. Her, she's running off. She's running off that outside shoulder. So if I pick up on her and say, hey, can you get those hindquarters over? I'm not trying to do it to where she's hyper flexing. I'm just saying, hey, can you bend and get soft? Because I got to get on this thing at some point. And say, hey, can your shoulders go out to my left? Use my right hand to help push her, just like my leg would be there to help her. And when she goes, you give her slack. You give her rope to go somewhere. She speeds up without asking. So I just say, hey, you know, you can stay right here. I'm bumping her a little bit because she's bracing into it and really pulling. I'd let them run into that pressure initially. And if they can find the comfort to come off of it, but this horse, she's learned just to pull on the halter. She'll just drag you around. And so when she does get to pushing in that, I'll let her run into the contact for a little bit, but if she keeps pushing and pushing and pushing to the point where she's going to drag me, you know, to the next county, then I'm going to put a bumper a little bit to get her off. See there, you can watch her outside shoulder, and she'll put her head up, but this is about the feet. I'm trying to get in time with this inside hind and say, hey, if you move that foot and get soft, you can see she's licking and chewing. She's starting to get it, but she's going to test the waters a little bit and see if this is really the deal. A lot of times they're going to keep asking questions like, oh, are you sure this is going to be my new life? Because things are a little bit easier beforehand. But you don't want to jerk on them too much, because they get into this protection state where they feel like they got to save themselves, and they need to be able to save themselves. But this horse right here is a prime example of one that horses aren't naturally like this. Horses get this way because people let them get this way, and they're going to do what's easy as possible. There's the shoulders. There you go. And the reason I spend a little time checking all this stuff out is because, you know, she squealed a little bit there at the beginning. You know, and that's attitude, something we want to make sure we have sorted out. And I did this just a little bit when we first got ready to saddle her. So there she tries to block me. Now I've got the halter. I can say, hey, nope, don't need to block me. So I just do this. I'm going to have to throw a saddle on her back. Those stirrups are going to come over. And there's a lot of things you can do. And I would tell people that maybe you have a young horse or you're wanting to do some ground work with your horse, and whether you're going to be the first one to ride them or not, the less that you know or the less you're unsure about, the more stuff you need to do to get these horses ready. The more confident you are and the more you've done it in a more conducive way to the horses, and the more confident you are, sometimes the less you can get away with doing. And I still do a fair bit to get these horses prepared. This horse has been desensitized to so much that it's almost too much, because you can see that she was running through my flag really, really tough going around there. We'll sort that out over the next couple of days and get her all straightened out in terms of starting to yield a little bit better. But it's all bite-sized pieces. And so, oh, there's the cat. That's Mayhem. I don't know if you guys could see her. She kind of ran up underneath my saddle. So you can see I've got the lead ropes just up underneath over my arm here, but I don't have any coils in it. Do note that, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw my saddle pad from this side, but just like the first saddling, I'm gonna saddle her from the other side here, because I don't, just like I talked about in the first video, we don't want to have to change sides more than we have to with these green colts, because if they got worried and we're going to change sides and they jump forward, then we just kind of put ourselves in a spot where we could potentially get hurt. And so this is always just, and it's good, you know, it keeps them balanced, because most people are going to saddle their horses from the horse's left side their whole life. And so when I drop these cinches down, I'm going to have to move them, because I was riding a much skinnier horse this morning. He was just built differently. Nothing against her, even though she does have a little extra weight. But I'm going to drop my cinches down to be conducive to her. I'm not in a rush to get this done, but I am very aware that these horses, particularly horses that haven't had to stand still for a period of time, they get fidgety. And so I am very much trying to move smoothly and swiftly, but not in a hurry, so that these horses you don't want them to feel like they're rushed, because they can pick up on that. So I'm not worried that she's going to walk off, but I'm prepared if she does. I've got my lead rope here. There's not a coil in it. It's just draped over my arm. And so there we go. So I want her to kind of stay paying attention to me on whichever side. I don't want her to look to the other side to check out the saddle. If she wanted to look around towards me, she's more than welcome to. And when I reach under here, my arm is up under the cinch and it goes across her belly. So when that cinch comes up, she's already felt my arm have some steady pressure there. And I'm gonna cinch her up here. You do this real smoothly. I just cinch them up enough that the saddle's not going to go anywhere. And this horse is very round. You could cut her midsection out and put a 55-gallon barrel drum and it'd be about the same. So with her, the breast collar is super important. And when I do this, I kind of move it just a little bit, and I want it to rub her just like my hand would. And my hand's going to come underneath here, and I'm rubbing her the whole time. And I'm going to pull it up underneath her chest so that not to startle them. And I'd want this breast collar on here because it could help my saddle from just tipping one direction or another. So, and then when I do reach under here to put the breast collar on, it got a little twisted there. I'm rubbing her chest and around the back of her elbows to help her feel that it's coming. You don't want to sneak up on them. You want it to keep your hands on them the whole time. So last time I cut her loose, this time I'm going to keep her on the rope a little bit. I'm going to let her walk. And if she needed to do something, I'd just go with her. If she felt like she had to save herself a little bit. I'll just let her cruise if she feels like she needs to trot. The reason I'm going to keep her on the lead rope is I'm going to let her go in a second. So she's feeling those, I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, she's feeling the stirrups. They just kind of bopped her, and I think it was on the outside shoulder, and that inside one's starting to move a little bit. I'm trying to pick up and get those hindquarters to roll, because I'm just doing this a little bit to let her move out. She's licking and chewing. See, just there. A lot of this is mental of her just paying attention. I want her to feel like she can sort through this saddle, but the reason I kept a hold of her there is because I just want to go and slowly cinch her up a little bit. And I'm not worried that the saddle is going to go anywhere, but I was going to cinch her up anyway. So now that I've got, it just went up one hole, no big deal. And now we'll let her get turned loose and I'll grab my flag again. And again, this is just for her to feel the saddle and to get this experience so she can become comfortable carrying this. You know, we're strapping all this stuff to them, and this isn't natural by any stretch. You know, this is something that humans have decided is necessary to so we can ride these guys. And she's going to go compete in the Gypsy Vanner stuff. So I'll point to her, say, hey, you can go out to the left. And just let her, we want to do a full range of motion. The saddle feels different at the walk, it feels different at the trot, it feels different at the canter. Those stirrups are going to move differently. And we know that she kind of got a little tight on the first saddling. And it's not much. I mean, it's just kind of the style of the horses they are with these gypsies. They're athletic in their own right, but they're not notoriously bucking horses by any stretch. If she wanted to come back to the walk, that's fine. I'm going to make her keep going around. There I thought she might want to cut in or ask if she could come in. So I asked her to canter here. I'll let her get on the other side of the camera so you guys can see. There. That's pretty good. She doesn't have to canter for miles. Its transitions are so important. So if she's not leaping into it by any means, she's kind of rolling up into it. Pretty predictable that she's not as punctual as she will be at the end of her time with us. You'll notice that when she does go, I take all the pressure away. So that eventually when she does just get to loping around, the expectation was to say that she lopes until she's told otherwise, and you're not having to get up there and just kick on her, you know, tap her with the whip or use spurs all the time. Is that you put her in the canter, and we're starting that now, and then you leave them alone. So I like to set that up. She's got a little decision to make, and she's doing better today. The first session, if she could pick me or the gate, initially she'd pick the gate. And so there she went to look away. She wants to check the saddle out. That's completely fine, but I'm not going to keep getting closer to her while she goes to look away, because when she comes back to look at me, I'd end up being a foot closer, but sometimes that can worry them. All right, so now I'm going to do the change of direction so we can do her on the right side. So here I'm going to step towards her hindquarters. There she opted to go the other way. This side, she's a little more troubled. She's okay. She just like hopped once or twice. I don't know what you guys could see. She was coming right towards the camera. She just hopped. Wouldn't even classify it as half of a buck. But this is the side she's not as confident on. So again, just let her trot. This is, you know, being predictable, having sequences of how you go about doing things is super important, because the horses can get confident when they understand what's coming. So again, she already knows to go walk, trot, canter each direction without a saddle on. So what we've changed now is that we've put the saddle on. And we said, hey, we're going to do the exact same thing that you've done already, but we're just going to strap this saddle to you. So the only thing that's changed is that one thing, which is the saddle. Now I've gotten pretty keen on some of the verbal cues. I like to use the visual as if I had the lead rope so I could point to her. She doesn't go. there. Actually, I didn't even have to use the flag that time. And so I like to do that just a lot of times with the client horses, because some people do kiss and cluck. So I do teach some of the horses that are client horses that when I kiss that they trot, or excuse me, when I cluck that they trot, and when I kiss that they canter. It's helped me when I did the Mustang makeover event. That horse was very verbal, and she was kind of the first one that I had that really needed that, and it really helped me along the time. So we put this sequence in to help these horses build some understanding on what's being asked of them. And let her check it out. So I'm going to pet her on both sides. I definitely want to pet her on this right side. There. And it's real important when you have a horse that, like, she started to back away a little bit, you don't freak out like they're going to leave, because a lot of times people think about what you don't want to happen, and horses want to prove you right. So if you're like, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, they're like, what do you mean, leave? And then they leave. Versus this time, you know, that time I'm just saying, hey, you can stay here, you're fine. And she goes, oh, I can stay. And I'm like, yeah, exactly, you can stay. That's a lot of the mental process and the intention of what you're doing. And so we'll go ahead and halter off. Let's set this flag over here. All right. Of course, I'm going to check the cinch, make sure it's complete. It's certainly tight enough. I'm just going to tie this up so it doesn't fall out. There we go. And let's check her out. We want to build some confidence in her, but we don't want to sneak around her by any means. So I'm just going to take these stirrups and move them up and down her side. She could care less, or it might worry her, but I just want her to stay with me. So you'll see here, I'm just kind of going back and forth. I'm not going to get in a rush with it. I'm just kind of taking them back and forth. And she can move around me, but she can't pull me around. So I'm just going to keep going. I started this when she was walking. And so when she does get really worried, I back off a little bit, but I'm cognizant that I don't want her, I'm picking up on her to tip her hindquarters away from me, which keeps her bend to the inside, because she could, if she wanted to, you know, she could kick at this stirrup that was moving here, and then she'd end up kicking me. So it's really a safety thing that I'm saying, hey, why don't you turn right here? There she stops. Then I stop, and you'll see she's licking and chewing. And so what I do is that when she gets really worried and she gets a little bit of frantic, her feet will start moving faster, her head will go up, she might pull away a little bit. You're fine. And I'll slow down with the stirrup. I won't necessarily completely stop, but I won't like let go of it, but I might stop going side to side with it. And see, that's pretty good. But I'll let her keep going around me. I want to keep her nose tipped towards me and her hips going away from me, so it's a safety thing that she can't kick me, or has less of a ability to. But then, you know, you just gradually, this is pressure they're not used to, so we can amp it up slowly. If she had to move her feet, I'd go with her, and then she stopped and she said, oh, maybe I can stick around. This horse's favorite gait is no doubt going to be whoa, but we want to get her confident standing still before she gets moving her feet around. I'll let her go if she feels like she needs to go. I'm not going to stop her from feeling like she has to save herself, but you know, there's going to be some rules that you can't push on or pull on me too much. And it's a steady, there I just kind of stayed steady with her, and her hind end, when her feet got right, she was able to yield that inside hind over. So she's starting to, that tells me she's starting to get the idea a little more. And so you want your horses to be really, you know, light to the leg per se. You don't want them to be dull where you're having to really, really kick, because that whole add more leg thing doesn't really work. But with this. So I tip her nose just a little bit towards me here. She's a little tight, so I'm just gonna hang with her. I just want her to tip her nose. She feels like she's gotta move her feet, which would be really similar if I just got on her and tipped her nose to the left or the right. She might just start going in circles because the lateral flexion needs some work. So I'm just staying with her. I'm trying to keep my similar body position. I'm waiting for her feet to stop. And all I did was just pick up on the halter rope. A lot of people under horses have been riding for years can't even do this. So there now I will ask her when her feet get stopped. She really laid on my hand and she got heavy. So I'm gonna wait for her to get soft and then I'll release. So here, same thing. She got a little bracy. I just waited and then she got soft. All fountain little bitty pieces along the way to help this little horse out. There's a spot right here. She's working through it. It's kind of like loosening the hinges. And she just we need to do more lateral flexion. It's like adding WD-40. The more she moves it back and forth, the looser it'll get. It's kind of like stretching. If they don't practice and we don't stretch, we get more and more tight. But then we don't go out and expect to do professional level yoga the first day. We just do little bitty movements over and over and over, like doing lateral flexion and asking it for multiple times to where they can get soft and stretch, because she's really having to stretch on the side of her neck that's closest to you guys. So if she was really tight there, then we just have to slowly loosen her up. Now we also know that I've watched her scratch flies off of this part of her back. We know that she can do it. So I'm not making excuses for her, but where she's really tight is in the pole. So, all right, so I'm not gonna have her turned all the way around, but I just wanna be able to tip her nose towards me. Initially, if I picked up on that halter rope, she'd pull, and then so she got worried, she'd just start pulling me around. So I've gotta get her to where she's soft like this, so that when I add something that she's not sure about, I have a foundation to go back to say, hey, tip your nose this way, so your hips go that way. Real similar to what we did. We just had to go back a few steps here from what we did on the other side. All right, so I'm gonna start moving this, and I don't have any pressure on this lead rope yet because I don't want to feel like I'm making her stay. But if she were gonna leave, I'd let her go and I wouldn't pick up on her until she went to dragging me off and her butt maybe came too close to me. This is really basic stuff, but you'd be surprised how many horses this bothers. And we'd like to be able to get on our horses and put our leg on and then move off of it, but then also sit there in a neutral position and flap our legs around and them them understand that there's a separation between when they need to go. So I just kind of added a little up and down motion, which actually, it changes the feel of it. She's doing really good. You can see that I'm not having to pick up on her yet. There I did a little bit, but overall, she's doing her best to stay soft on that halter. She's starting to find where the end of it is. So I'll go back to the side, and she was doing really good with it just rubbing up and down her sides, and then I started to add a little bit of a flapping motion to it, and you can see there how this is a different feel. It's more energy, and if she didn't get worried really about it. She felt like she had to move, but if she got really worried, then I go back to the side, something that she's comfortable with. So I'll start with the side to side, and she's like, oh, I don't care, my ears are up, I'm looking at the camera, I'm a star. And I say, okay, I'm just gonna flap it. And now she only took that one step. So she's taking less steps each time. And to me, I figured this was gonna be a little bit of a spot. Some horses, they just don't care. Some horses will fly around like you're flying a kite because they are really sensitive and it bothers them. but I wanted to check this out with her because my legs are going to be there, and with as kind of antsy, or she doesn't like being pushed on, right? She squealed at us both days here, and she doesn't like being pushed on, so I wanted to get her comfortable with my legs. But then here in a second, I'm going to use these stirrups, and I'm going to start putting in a cue of how I put my legs on. So I'm going to take this stirrup and just bump her in the sides like this, and now this is going to mean something. I'm going to wait for her feet to move. She's going to have to start. This is teaching the separation. So I'm looking for her inside hind, or for her just to walk forward, really, because see, I don't have a flexion on her. So I'd really like for her there. So I helped her out. I started talking to her a little bit, and then I let her out with my hand just to help her. But I'll start here with just the leg. There. And when she starts to go, I take all the pressure away. So she's used to being drove from behind with maybe a rope swinging or the flag, but then we got to understand that they don't understand. So then I go back, and now I'm just rubbing it down her sides, and so we have to build separation. We have to do things separately and let them start to understand what means, what is important, and what are the differences in those. So this side, I say, hey, I'll push against her sides, and then when she doesn't go off of that, I'll bump, because horses, horses can't, this horse will lean on anything. We know that because she pulls you around in the halter. But if you put your hand, there you go, good girl. And so she moved off a little bit, and then I'll rub her sides and say, hey, pretty good. It's all right. I stopped before she started to move. Sometimes our timing isn't always ideal, but that's all right. None of us are perfect. So I want this inside front foot to step. There. Because otherwise she just gets to pivot, and so we want to drive a little bit of forward. So here I'll lead her out and try to help her. There. Now she can get some momentum. And this is pretty big too, with them walking around. Sometimes horses have trouble. Walking around and being rubbed. And I'll step in beside her here and just ask her to bend. So we're just putting in some pieces bit by bit. Ask her to back up a step. So I'm going to now I'm just rubbing this saddle around her back. You'd be surprised. This whole feeling is different for them. There, she got a little tight when I pulled on the cantle of this saddle. And so I found, like most horses, a lot of horses aren't worried about it. They learn to sort it out a little bit. But I've also had one horse that kind of jumped in my lap when I did this sensation. And so I've been a little more apt since then to check it out and make sure that the horses are okay with it. Because when I go to put my weight in one of the stirrups, it's going to pull this saddle just a little bit, but I've got a breast collar on it. My cinches are tight. The saddle fits her well. And so I want to make sure that, everything is set up for the best success. But I've also know that this feeling on some of these horses of moving it across their back, they're really sensitive. They can feel a fly land on them. So it's something we definitely want to check out. And so I'll try to change. I know guys, like when I'm working on this, I kind of just keep going. I try to keep in mind where the camera is, but this is a lot of times for you guys to kind of be as if you were sitting on the side of the round pen watching, and I was sitting here talking to you guys. I would just keep going about it the way I felt like is most appropriate for the horse, and kind of talk my way through what I'm doing. There you go. Yeah, she takes a big deep sigh there. And so I've got my lead rope just short enough that I could bend her if I needed to. This lead rope's about 14 footer, so it's about as long as I'd really like one to be honest. I wouldn't want it to be much longer. I'll kind of, there we go, that's a little more apt for what I need. And so just to start with, I put my toe in the side of the stirrup, or in the stirrup, and I just put a little pressure. She's fortunately easy size to do this. She's not like 17 hands like what I'm used to riding. And just let her get used to that feeling. And you can do that from standing at their shoulder. A lot of times you do that with the green ones. If you're, change my lead rope. My lead rope got to jumping through itself there. So I just hop up next to her a little bit, keep her nose bent this way. If she had to move, I'd try to go with her the best I can. I want her looking at me, and I just want to get her used to something happen next to her. This is just where you go with them. There, she finds a place to stop. It's a pet peeve of mine, and it can get dangerous. So watch some of these people get on their horses, and the horses don't stand still to get on them. And you can do some stuff in the very beginning to where honestly the horses never learn to walk off, because if they try, they certainly might try it, but if they do, there's no release. You know, you address it there. So I just bend her here and stay with her. This is why I've been pretty apt to spend a little more time getting her soft on the halter, because she's a plow pony. Like, she will just pull and pull and pull. And when you get in a situation like this, there you go. If she were to do that, then her butt would come towards me, her nose would go that way. I'm on this side, and if she decided that she had to buck or she wanted to run off, then if I had to step off, she'd be running me right over. So that's why you can see just in that little instance there where she went to pulling, there's only so much I can do. I have to stay with her, but I've done just enough where I feel confident that I can help her, and I can help her sort it out. Now I'll lean across this other side and let her see me on this side. And she's looking at her shadows down there. And she's took a good look at me over here. I'll step back down. I've got my hand up on her neck there, because that saddle, she's already round in the back. So I wouldn't want to pull any more on that saddle than I have to. I'm using the cannel but I'm pushing down on her neck so that she's used to, that's the center of where her weight will be, and she can get used to that as well. They're just bouncing up and down around her. Let her get used to that. Just letting her kind of fight these flies for a second, because her weight, when she picks up that left front, her weight tips towards me, and I'm cognizant on if I were to put my stirrup and she was coming, she'd be more apt to fall towards me or lean towards me, and that's not ideal. So again, just building balance there. There she was really soft. I'm not sure you guys could see, but just picking up on this halter. Now she's a little tight. There, she gets soft. There. Let her get settled. She's just kind of swaying. I wonder, that's more mental. There. I wonder, she was standing still, but you could feel that she was just kind of teetering back and forth. And I wanted her to get more centered because that's a lot more mental. I like them for them to move their feet a little bit. She's like a sack of potatoes. Come on. There. Moving their feet just kind of gives them a little refresh because they can get kind of stuck. And so, there we go, that saddle. You can see she's just so round. So all I'm gonna do to end her right now is I'm gonna step up on her here. Watch that, see how that's so long, and make sure that stays out of my way. I wouldn't want my foot to slip in there. That saddle's just rolling. So get my foot in the stirrup, use that to get straight again. There we go. And I'm just gonna sit here and rub on her. That'll be good enough for her to be ended today. And if you guys were wondering, this thing is very wide. I haven't sat on a horse this wide in a long time. Sorry. The horse the saddle was on before was half this. But see how she's not bothered. She's pretty relaxed. And she can get comfy just with us sitting up here. And take this lead rope. That's how I'm gonna ride her. Our next session, we'll put a ride on her, a formal ride, and that's how I'm gonna change directions. So this is really good to check her out, and then I can do it on this side because I'm gonna step off on this other side, but I'm not gonna sneak around her. This is why before I rubbed my legs up and down her side so that she didn't get bothered by it. And then when I go to step off, I get my foot short in the stirrup, put my hand here on the saddle, put my hand here on her neck. I'm gonna roll this way and end up here towards her shoulders. So if she got bothered, I'm out of the way. And so guys, we're gonna go ahead and get her untacked here. And that'll be the end of her second session. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys found it informative. And we're gonna bring you guys, we got about 5 more days of her first week, and then it'll all be available on our YouTube channel, so you guys check it out. We're gonna be filming some other colts so you guys can see what it's like to start different breeds and all that. So, all right guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.